week there was a technical issue, and this week we were confident. This week was the week when everything was going to run smooth, and then just before we were about to go live, it all went to pot. But we managed to make it on time, 8 p.m. here. Yeah, thank you for joining us, everybody. So we are going live on YouTube, Facebook, and in a couple of the groups as well. So, and please feel free to fire those questions over for tonight's amazing guest, Natasha Stanley. First comment, hello, Natasha, how are you? Natasha, this is especially for you this week. I know how you are often looking for good role models for female stage hypnotists as well. Richard Cole is in the house. He says, what's up? And Carl Stowe has made it as well. So we've got them coming in thick and fast. Tonight's guest is an amazing female stage hypnotist. The world needs more of them, especially good ones as well. This lady is a fantastic stage hypnotist, and she's known as that lady hypnotist as well. So please make some noise, make her feel very welcome. And she should appear.
Right.
Is it this side, that side? Which side is it going to be this week? It's this side. It's Mariana. How are you?
I'm wonderful now. Wonderful now. We've got those technical things taken care of. And yeah, thank you for the great introduction.
Do you know, it's one of the things with live streaming. It's the closest I found to a stage show that almost anything can happen when you least expect it. And 2 minutes before you're about to go live.
Frozen. Oh, I don't know if anybody else has you frozen.
I've got you frozen. Let me just
there.
Just have a look. Are we better? I've got you back now.
Okay, yes. I got you back too.
Brilliant. There we go.
Yeah.
So Carl Stowe says, hello, Mariana. Can't hear you, but can see you. Natasha says you are both fine. Oh, there we go. Natasha's always good because she's always there checking the technicals as well.
Oh, fine. That's really nice.
Yes. And Karen says, oops, my fault. She had the phone on Do Not Disturb. See, as I was saying, it's one of the closest things to a live show where you kind of, anything can happen and you've got to kind of think on your feet. And that was a great example of it, that we kind of thought everything was fine. And we've been chatting over the week. It's like, oh, we'll just jump on a couple of minutes beforehand. We know what we're doing. And then there was a technical glitch, but it's fine, and we are here now. So, for those that don't know, whereabouts in the world are you currently?
I am in the Pacific Northwest, Washington State, in the U.S.
Nice.
In the very cold and wet Washington State this week. But that's it. But I travel everywhere. That's where I am. I'm originally from Holland, though. I was born in Holland. I speak Dutch, but I've been United States for many, many years. So yes.
Oh, brilliant! It was one of my favorite countries was Holland. I think I visited 8 times in 1 year. It's a fantastic place. Great friendly people. Really love the place. I was supposed to be speaking at a conference there a couple of years ago, but then the pandemic happened, and then that never happened. So were you a hypnotist in Holland, or is that something that happened since you moved US side?
Since I came to the United States back when I was very, very young. So I was too young to do hypnosis, like 3. So that's I hypnotize people, but in different ways. Yes.
Yes. So what was your first experience of stage hypnosis? How did you learn about the craft? How did it become on your radar?
Actually, many years ago, 35 years ago, maybe, I was in Reno with some other people, and they had free shows back in those days. Oh. And I was sitting down watching this lady up on stage, and she was a comedy stage hypnotist. At the time, I didn't know what that was, but I saw her give this imaginary chicken from one person to the next, and and oops, it messed on their pants, and just laughing. And I turned to the people I was with, and I said, someday I want to do that. Yeah. And unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, it didn't happen for many, many, many years. Instead, I went different paths, and I had a family, I had children. I was in law enforcement for 17 years. So some different things. And then the opportunity came. I had moved to Maui. My daughter was ill here in Washington State, and so I moved back. And when I moved back, yeah, when I moved back, I had to figure out what I was going to do. I wanted to do something, wasn't sure. And this catalog came in the mail, and it was from a local college, and it had Introduction to Hypnotherapy. And at the time, I thought, what is that? I don't even know what hypnotherapy is, even though in college I did all kinds of anything that had to do with the mind, but I really didn't know what hypnotherapy was. So I took the class, loved the class, and found out that my instructor was also a comedy stage hypnotist. And I went to go see him at a local casino.
Nice.
When I watched him, all of a sudden this light bulb came on, and it was like, oh my gosh, that's what I've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
It all came back to me. And so I took a couple courses from him. I finished up with my hypnotherapy, first of all, but I also took stage classes at the time. And I realized if I wanted to be the best that I could be, where do I need to go to learn what the craft?
Yeah.
So I researched and found out Las Vegas was probably the best place. And so I've been going there ever since, taking trainings and doing things even to this day. So over a decade.
I think it's so important. I've not got COVID, by the way. I've been tested every day. I've got this tickly cough. I think it's so important to keep going on new courses, to keep relearning new skills, because people's attention spans change. People have different styles, and not only that, it's a great way of networking and meeting other people within the industry as well. So yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. You mentioned that you worked in law enforcement. It's always fascinating for me what people did before they became the hypnotist that they are, and what jobs helped them. And we've had lots of people that were magicians and et cetera, et cetera. And I also find people that were entertainers before tend to be good hypnotists and entertainers. But I also find people with military service and police experience, law enforcement, tend to do well as well. Why do you think that is?
Well, personally, for me, it's because I did a lot of public speaking. I also had to do a lot of impromptu improv things, even as, you have to think quick on your feet, have to be able to do those kind of things. And I think that really, really helps. And that's one of the reasons sometimes I think I wish I would have started doing this years before, but instead I realize now, no, that's not true, because I wouldn't have had the skills and the experience that I have now, or confidence that I have now. So and I think maybe that's one of the reasons, that, and I don't want to use the word control, but taking control of your stage, of what's going on. I think if you have some military background, that helps, or paramilitary as in law enforcement, that with that. So yeah,
definitely. I do think it is about that, especially in those situations where it could escalate. It is about controlling that stage, understanding the importance of the language, body language, the energy that you put out
at all times. I think that's important too, and that's something that you learn in those fields, is to not only just concentrate on what's happening in front of you, but what's happening everywhere else. Absolutely. And I really that makes a difference too. Actually use this for my for getting to know my people, for some rapport. When I tell people that I have been in law enforcement I was in law enforcement for 17 years, and why did I become a stage hypnotist? Because I wanted people to wave at me with all 5 fingers. So that's that always works as a
I think it's one of the most important things as well, when we do that pre-talk, when we're trying to build that rapport with the audience and the volunteers on stage. It's nice if you've got some great kind of one-liners like that to catch them and really pull them in as such. So over the years, there must have been some challenges as a female hypnotist. There's not that many of you, and there's even less of a number of good ones of you, because I do think it's easier for a male to be a dominant force on stage, and sometimes that can be difficult. How have you found it? Have you found that you've found things more challenging, or do you find by being a female that has helped you in some way?
I personally, I feel it's helped me in many ways. I do have to be careful, depending on who the audience is and who my volunteers are. There's a fine line. A man can tell jokes, a male can tell jokes that a female can't. It comes
Yeah.
across different. The same with touch. You have to be very, very careful. And if someone's standing up and I have their legs like steel and I say sleep and I have them put their head on my shoulder or whatever, I have there's part of me that's a pillow. So I
Yeah.
have to you have to think about those things. Who is your audience? I wouldn't do that with maybe with high school boys,
Yeah.
that type of thing. So there's good and bad. There's good and bad, but it was the same in law enforcement. It was always good to have male, female.
Yeah.
There's just some things I think that I can get away with that a male can't, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see it as a detriment or a challenge. It's just, again, being aware.
Yeah, I know, especially here in the UK. I don't know so much about in the US, but we got male middle-aged hypnotists kind of got a bit of a bad reputation in the 90s because guys were, and you see it everywhere. The young, beautiful dolly bird in the arm and the control, and it kind of got a bit of a bad rap. I think now, sometimes if I've got all female volunteers, I know at the back of their mind there is some element of distrust there, of an anxiety about that. And so I think sometimes it's always good to have a female assistant on stage to help with that. So I think in that sense, it really does help you because you're not going to be seen as that middle-aged hypnotist predator. Or I'd like to think that anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree, and it feels very good to be one of the few professional female stage hypnotists. But I would like to see many more. I would like.
Yeah.
There's always room for more people. Always
Yeah.
room for more. There's no such thing
Yeah.
as that competition.
Yeah, it's weird because a lot of people, especially in local communities, when they're like, oh, if you're training people to be hypnotists, then you're just creating more competition. It's like, well, the reality is, there's thousands of people that have no idea what a comedy hypnosis show is. The more good people out there performing, doing good shows, the more the word is spread and people come and, it does the industry good. What does us bad is bad hypnotists doing bad shows.
Yes.
So, yeah.
No, I agree. And
Yeah.
also, I consider us to be ambassadors for hypnosis all the way around, because there's never a show that after a show that someone doesn't come up to me and say, hey, can you help with this or that?
Yeah.
And so what I usually do is refer them, because I know a lot of other hypnotists, hypnotherapists, because I don't do a lot of that myself, even though I could. I prefer to do what I'm doing now. So yes, I think you're right, both male and female. If you're good and if you create that trust,
Yeah.
and not scare them or make it worse, make it like the movies, I think that we're excellent ambassadors for him.
And it is such a powerful tool for both comedy and for delivering a profound message. I always talk about the challenges. Tell us about your first show. You've done the training. You've got to get up there. You know all the stuff. You know it off by heart. It's all yours. But the lights come on and you walk out on that stage. What was that like?
Okay. I almost consider it that I had two firsts. My very first was after I had been trained just to do this for just maybe a weekend. My instructor sent us out there, and he actually gave me one of his shows and says, go do it. There was some miscommunication on some levels. One was that actually I was working for a third party that I didn't realize it wasn't really his show. The second is I didn't know all the rules when you work for a third party. Like, you're not allowed to market yourself. You're not allowed to give. There were things in his contract that I had no idea.
Yeah.
He got the wrong time. I was given the wrong time, so that didn't help at all. And then they asked me to do a routine. Everybody there was asking me to do a routine that I had no idea what they were talking about. Let's see this. Let's see this. It's one that everybody knows, and but I didn't know it at the time. And so then I think it came across as if I didn't know what I was doing, which I didn't. I thought I did well because everybody went into trance. Everybody was having fun, I thought. But when it came time to get that review, I was called by the person who gave me the show and said, "Hey, I think you need to know what they said." And I'm all excited thinking I've got my first testimonial. And it was, "I don't think she even knows how to hypnotize."
Wow.
And my stomach dropped.
Yeah.
And it actually started to cry.
Yeah.
I think it was done wrong by that person calling me and telling me that way. And
Yeah.
I didn't know the whole story, what it was they said to him. By the way, I never got paid for that one.
Oh.
But then I had to stop and think, okay, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Is this not for me? Or is this something I really want? Do I want to now investigate and find out how to be, like I say, the best that I can be?
Yeah.
Decided that's what I was going to do. I wasn't going to give up. So on my very first show, so we're going to go fast forward now. I went to Vegas, I got trained, I did some stuff. And then my very first show, what I did to get my first show was I looked in the newspaper and I saw that there was a local school and the treasurer had taken off with all the money.
Oh.
And so nothing.
Wow.
So I stepped forward and I looked to see who was in charge or who I could contact. And I said, I don't have money, but this is what I can do for you.
Yeah.
I will do this show for free. Any money that comes in goes to your kids. Just give me a venue, give me someplace to do it.
Yeah.
And they gave me a beautiful stage at a high school. We had lots and lots of people there. It was a great show. Afterwards, I felt so good. I felt absolutely wonderful. That thought of, oh my God, it worked. Oh my God, this worked. So yeah, and there were a couple of things that happened during that show that I learned a lot from, but it was great. It was great. I did have one, I did do one routine where I had a police siren, of course, because, being law enforcement, you have to have something. So I had a police siren, and next thing I know, and I'm facing the audience at that point, and I hear all this, oh, and I turn around and look, and there's a gal on the floor, and she's kind of moving, and I thought I truly thought she was having an ab reaction. I thought, oh no, my first show, here's somebody with an reaction that's having, seizures on the ground. So I took a deep breath and pretend like nothing was wrong. I walked around to where she was at and kind of bent down and said something to her and realized actually what she was doing was trying to get away from the police. She was crawling to get away from the police. So that's what it was.
Yeah. Emptying her pockets out as she goes.
So I still did the, the scene fades and you tense your breathing. The cops are gone now. But what I learned from that show is that one of the things, if I'm going to do a routine like that, I'll say, and we don't run from the cops. We don't.
Yeah. Really great point that you made then about that first show with the bad review. I remember my first bad review, and I can tell you the line now. It was Grant Saunders has got all the charm and personality of a Butlins red coat crossed with an angry traffic warden. And I'm like, wow, thank you. But it stayed with me for ages. But exactly like what you said then, stuff goes wrong and then you come away from it and then you've done some more training. And because you've done that more training afterwards, it's not all just going in. You're picking out the parts that like, do you know what? This is what I know that goes wrong. All the other stuff that happens in the build up to actually getting out there on stage, it's all that stuff that's the hard work that if you're not out there performing, you're not aware of it, if you know what I mean. So yeah.
It's all experience and getting that confidence.
Yeah.
And I think that's just bottom line. That and being creative, knowing not to be rigid, that you need to be able to change as things change.
Yeah.
And I've seen that with some others where they don't do that and it bombs their show. Some things happen. So I think that's why I think improv is so important. I think it's so great for people to take improv classes. I had taken those before, even when I was in the police department. And I think that helped me to do public speaking and to be into the public with the public.
And I think it's great, like you said then, about being flexible, because sometimes you see a situation about to unfold with a volunteer and you've got to be able to go, do you know what? Let's see where this goes, because it could be comedy gold.
Exactly.
I had a routine ages ago, and it started from something to nothing, but then it really grew into something. And now I try and make it accidentally happen in most
Yes,
shows now.
exactly.
And I've
Exactly.
been performing for years, and it just happened this one time. And I literally stopped the show, and literally, I mean, I'm not giving the routine away, but there's a whole thing where I'm moving the mic stand and just pointing it at this person, and then that's it. And there was a good 5 minutes of material, but not doing anything, just allowing the comedy to do its own thing. And if I'd have not been flexible in that, that would have never have happened and would never become part of my show now. And I think, you know, especially when we all start out, we're given these are the routines that people have been doing since time immemorial. It's when those little bits happen and you go, oh, that's brilliant. I'm going to add that now, and I'm going to add this. And you put the garnishes on top and you make it your own then. But
Exactly.
yeah, it's good fun.
Routine that I didn't know back when they were asking, they're all telling me to do it, was just the spy routine. Now everybody knows that one. That's pretty easy. But at that time, I'd never seen it. I didn't know it. And because I didn't know that one and they were requesting it, that's
Yeah.
what made me, I didn't know what I was doing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what's the, I was going to say, that sounds like a challenging show, but was that your most challenging show you've ever had?
Uh, no, I've had some other challenging shows. I had one for a private company that I went to do a corporation, and what happened when I was there is it seemed like nobody wanted to pay attention to what I was doing. They all stand in the back and drink and talk and different things. And so I continued on. I think I ended up with four committee members or volunteers, and did what I needed to do. And it wasn't until after the show that I found out it was a HVAC type company. And I found out that one of their coworkers had fallen off a ladder and died the day before.
Wow.
No idea. Someone told me that at the beginning, I may have been able to do something to help all those folks, to still make it a show, but to help all those folks, but I didn't know. So that was probably one of the ones that really sticks out in my mind. Because at the time I'm up there thinking, what am I doing wrong? Why is nobody paying attention to, or to the show, I should say, to their friends that are up here? So that's also something I learned, is to ask whoever it is that's hired me, or ask someone there, is there anything I need to know before I go on?
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Great question. Great
Mhm.
question. It's bizarre because out of all the entertainment professions, we're the ones that are, you know, we can have great excuse me, we can have great volunteers and
Yeah,
not a great, oh, thank you, and not a great audience. We can have a great audience and not great volunteers, or we can have not great volunteers and not great audience, but we can still be great. And so
exactly.
there's so many different variables involved in it. And like you said, you don't know sometimes. Sometimes I've had volunteers on stage that I've been like, these are amazing. And the audience is just like,
Yep.
you know, and you don't know where they're at before they come into that room that night and sit down.
Exactly. Yeah. Richard, some of these folks I know, I participate. I volunteer at Hypnothoughts every year, which I have. Hypnothoughts yet?
I've supposed to have been there for the past 3 years, but then I had to end up in hospital one year. Something happened
No.
the next year. COVID happened the year after that. The universe does not want me to get to Hypnothoughts, but I've been to a couple of other conferences in Vegas.
But I see a lot of names and of folks there that I know from there, because I'm in charge of the volunteers there. So yeah.
It's so important that as well too. I often get hypnotherapists that want to learn stage hypnosis. And I go, have you seen a stage hypnosis show? And they're like, well, no, just on YouTube. I'm like, go to a show, go to 5 shows, volunteer for 5 shows, understand what's going on. If you volunteer and you don't feel like you've gone where you think you should go, volunteer again until you get where you want to be. And that gives you such a better understanding of what's happening on stage by being a volunteer and understanding what's happening on stage.
Absolutely.
Richard Cole says you're
Yeah.
a super valuable part of Hypnothoughts Live.
Absolutely, I agree with the hypnotist Jim Wand,
Yes.
who that I absolutely trust
Yeah.
and faith in, and he knew me. And so I knew that once I was up there, he wasn't going to do anything that I couldn't put on YouTube, or that, that would affect what I do, because doing a lot of shows with grads and with that age group, and I just have to be careful. But like you say, I did learn something. And one of the things I learned is, as a female, when I was down, I was sitting and down, and as I was down, I was very uncomfortable. And I kept thinking in my head, I was still in trance, but I kept thinking in my head, when can I sit back up? When can I sit back up? So that taught me something for my volunteers, and to be able to let them know, if they're uncomfortable, it's okay that they move to get comfortable, but still 100% in trance, or, or however you want to say it. Yeah.
And if you'd have not volunteered and not had that experience, that would have never become part of your show.
Exactly.
Just to clear something up as well, Jason Nobby Morgan, he's a Welsh hypnotist. When he says, "Hope your snoring has stopped," he's talking to me, not you. Jason organises a big.
He was listening, not to me.
Yeah, he organises a big event in Wales here, which I was at last weekend, and because people joke that I'm quite precious. And it was in the middle of nowhere, so he brought his caravan with underfloor heating and everything. It was an amazing caravan, but apparently, because I've got this cold, I was snoring very loudly, and he couldn't get any sleep. So, but you would think, as a hypnotist, he'd be able to put himself to sleep.
So I have a question for you, if I may. Do you also include any mentalism in your shows?
I don't. I love magic. I love watching magic. But especially because of the Northern Working Men's Club kind of background, there's plenty of times where I would have stopped a show that I didn't think I could get a show out of it, and I would have reverted back to mentalism. I'd have gone, all right, well, this hasn't worked, let's show me something. And I would have reverted back to that. And there's nothing wrong with people that do that. But because I've not had that plan B on stage, I have to get a show out of them no matter what. And sometimes, if the audience isn't on my side and the volunteers aren't there, I'll even make that a joke about my show and go, listen, guys, I have got 40 minutes left to kill before I get paid. So I'm either going to talk really slowly, or we're going to volunteer on stage. And I make that a point of it. So I love mentalism, magic. But I don't have the dexterity in my fingers to make it work. And because I'm so unlucky, I would go, and this is your card, and it would be wrong.
I was very much against mentalism for so long, as far as putting it together with hypnosis shows, because I'm always telling people hypnosis is real, and mentalism is illusion. And I didn't want to mix the two, but now I understand. I've seen more and more people do it, and more clients requesting both. So I have a few routines in my back pocket, or in my tool chest, and together with Catherine Hicklin. I'm not sure if you've talked to her yet, or Tracy Gray.
I've sent Catherine a message. I actually met Catherine in Vegas a few years ago, and it's always interesting for me, because in England I'm northern and common as muck. I'm from Manchester, so you couldn't get more northern. And she's walked into the room, she's said something, and she just gave me a cuddle just because of my English accent.
I travel a lot with Catherine, and at her shows and things. So, but between her and Tracy Gray, and again, female hypnotists, both great and both good with the mentalism part. I just had to throw that in there just because I think they're so great, and they've helped me being able to do a couple of, like I say, I don't want to be a mentalist per se, but to have some of those routines in my back pocket. It's so.
Yeah. What is it? What is it you do in the mentalism part, if you don't mind me asking?
What is it I do?
Yeah.
Is that routines? Oh, there's a few kind of influence and mind reading type thing. And they're very much just real openers for me. I just did them recently at a show, a couple of things, but just enough to get people's attention and awe, that type of thing. I also do, as part of my intro, I do the spinner. So I've got the and I usually find someone from the audience to hold it in front of their face. I don't do like Mark Savard and have them hold it in their boobs. I have them hold
Yeah.
it. And that seems to work really, really well also as far as creating rapport and getting people's attention and getting a little bit of wow. But I let them know it's not hypnosis, that it's
Yeah.
just something.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, that's one of the things that I love about mentalism. When it's done right, when the audience is kind of like, is this influence, is this suggestion? I mean, what Darren Brown did for NLP was amazing. There were so many people having seen Darren Brown perform a magic trick under the guise of mentalism and say it's NLP. I think that's what drove so many people to learn in NLP. It's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, Natasha, I think she's talking to you. She says, you're friends with Richard Nongard. I was told you were at his wedding.
Yes, that's correct. I'm very good friends with he's moved now to Texas, and so I don't we're not we don't see each other as often, but and his wife and his lovely child are very good friends of mine, very good friends, and he's an excellent teacher.
It's America especially, and Canada has produced some amazing hypnotists, but there's also a great sense of community amongst those people, which is really nice. Here in the UK, we're starting to get a little bit of that now, but for years it was very much everyone was on the road doing their own thing and didn't want to speak to anyone else because they were just stealing their jobs. And so we can learn a lot from across the water on how it's done, because it is about everybody trying to improve everybody else's game as well.
Absolutely.
So, going with Michael Johns, Richard Johns. Yeah, Natasha knows everybody.
Like I know Michael Jones too, yes, and Jolanda, and yes.
Michael is an amazing guy, and I'll publicly thank him as well. That he did me a routine as well, which I'm just putting together now. But it's a great writer of comedy. And so it's going to be a big part of the show. So you know what I mean, I was very pleased to receive that. It was Natasha that sorted that out as well. So yeah, so I do keep meaning to publicly thank him, but I never do. So Michael, if you're watching, thank you. So we talked about your challenging shows. What's your highlight so far up to date from your hypnosis career?
Gosh. There's so many things. I don't know that I have just one thing. That's a difficult question.
Yeah.
It's in different areas. Doing the fundraisers, helping with the fundraisers, and being able to say yes. I helped this volleyball team, bring in $300,000. Well, not alone, of course, but just that was part of it to get the people there.
Yeah.
Having someone call me and say, my husband was part of your show, and you had told him that every time it was nice weather, he'd get this urge to go out and work in the yard. He said he's never worked in the yard, and now he goes out there all the time. And when I ask him, why are you here? He says, I don't know, it's just nice weather. So it's just all those little things that and helping people build confidence, I think. That's one of the things, because always try to end the show with that part of it. So
it's one of the really nice things that we give those people on stage. For those moments they're on stage, those inhibitions are dropped, those self-doubts, those insecurities have gone away, and they can kind of be who they are meant to be, without fear of judgment from other people, and they can be silly and everything's fine. And if we can let them keep a little bit of that with them in their day-to-day life, that's an amazing thing. I struggled for years as an entertainer that all I did was make people laugh, and then after the show it's forgotten about. But it's so important, laughter, especially in times like this when people are struggling, to be taken away from the stresses in their life, the pressures at work, the problems with relationships, where they can be in an audience or be on stage, and for that time they're transported to somewhere else. Is such an important thing. And it took me years to understand that these people are coming to be taken somewhere else. So yeah.
Oh, you took the words right out of my mouth. I'm not sure if you knew who Michael Elner was. He passed away last year, a couple years ago. But one of the things that I use, that he gave me permission to use, is his quote on FDD, fun deficit disorder. That we're all suffering from fun deficit disorder right now. So
Absolutely.
comedy stage hypnosis is one of the cures for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely one of the for that. Even like you say, if it's just for an hour, just
Yeah.
to get people to relax and to laugh and to enjoy and forget about everything else that's going on.
Exactly. And it's nice when you get it from the volunteers and from the audience as well, when it's that belly laugh. In
Yes,
a
yes,
world where comedy is very sophisticated now, here in the UK, I don't know about in the US, but here in the UK, a lot of the older comedians are being cancelled, and their material is very outdated. So, there's pros and cons to that. But people take their comedy very seriously. Um, Whereas it's nice sometimes to have people belly laughing at
mhm,
silly things on stage, and they go back to that childlike state where they're just laughing. So yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. So you talk about fundraisers and charity shows. Um, how do you do that? In the beginning, I used to do any charity show that I could. Now I limit myself into kind of going, these are the charities that I support. I will
exactly.
do those. I don't do them free shows anymore. What I do is I donate my fee back to the cause, so then that
Mhm.
they see the value in what they're getting rather than thinking there's no value to it. But I'm very strict on it's just those two charities now, because I went through a phase of being bombarded with, you know,
Yes.
some fantastic story, and I'm a sucker for a sad story. And sometimes I've been traveling like 3-4 hours to get to a venue for no fee for a charity of. So how do you stop yourself, or do you?
I do I do the same thing. I limit it to so many, and then I like your idea of saying, okay, whatever I get, I'm going to give back to
Yeah,
you. Because I have found, like probably like many people, that if you just say it's free, then you don't get the respect or
yeah,
anything else that you need
yeah,
to put on a show. So it's nothing for somebody to just not contact you again
yeah,
because it's well or anything like that. So you do need to put some value on yourself.
yeah.
Uh,
Exactly
yeah.
that. And
So
it's nice at the end of the night that they can kind of go, oh, this money's been donated, by yourself. And like you said, their perceived value of you has not been devalued by doing a free show. So yeah,
I do have lower prices for nonprofits.
yeah,
And recently, because of the way the world has been, and especially for our teenagers and that have been locked up and sitting in front of computers and doing all those things, that they're now finally getting to be able to get together, that I have discounted prices
yeah,
for them, just because it needs to happen.
yeah,
It needs. They haven't had time to do fundraising or all those things to hire someone.
yeah,
So I work with them. I work with them, and I enjoy it. And I know it's word of mouth, because after that, I'll get hired again.
yeah.
And this,
And
um,
that's the secret. The secret is putting on a good show and getting rebooked. I'm very
exactly.
fortunate that a lot of my bookings I've been working with for years. And that was a scary thing for me during this lockdown. I know one of the venues has been sold and is now going to be a student accommodation, and so you kind of got to push things out there a little bit more. I always ask this, but if you were to recommend 2 books on either performance hypnosis or personal development, 2 books that have helped you, what would they be?
Oh my goodness. Again, so many books.
Yeah,
So many books. I think my very first book for stage. So if somebody's absolutely just beginning, and I took these classes, and I think Richard probably did too. And this is an old book, but it was just plain old stage hypnosis. It was Jeff, and there you go. See, same thing. Those that I think is a staple that everyone needs.
yeah,
Um, I actually like Jonathan Chase has
yes,
Deeper and Deeper. I
yep.
think I like that one too. Do you have that one too? Most of mine now are on on Kindle or something like that. So, oops, you're for.
This book, you mean?
I don't know if you can see me.
No,
Um,
you've just gone a bit. You've frozen a little bit.
Lot of books. So, oh, there you are.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, so I got the Jonathan Chase Deeper and Deeper. The Deeper and Deeper book was a great book for me. I think Jonathan is a fantastic hypnotist. And it's weird that there's a second and third generation of trainers of hypnotists now that trained with Jonathan. And he very much has that, he's got that intent, that presence that makes a good hypnotist. So yeah, two fantastic books there as well.
Yeah. So yeah, those are great books. I've got lots and lots of other books that I love for people to make sure. And whoops, where am I? There I am.
There you go. That is Kaz Riley's book.
That's absolutely great. It's not for stage, but it's a great book.
Yes.
And then one called Hypnotic Women. And this is actually compiled of, there's a group called Hypnotic Women. It's a Facebook group. I believe there's like 3,000 women from all over the world now.
Wow.
It was created by Kelly Woods, and it's going to be in its 10th year. But at the very beginning, what she did was she had women submit their favorite script, and put it together in this book. And it's absolutely, it's great. It's great. It's got scripts from all over the world, from people from all over the world. And just because I keep saying women, I love men. So
yeah.
And most of us do.
It's a weird world that we live in, and again, it's because there's all sorts of arguments online and everything. And I think sometimes when we talk about masculine and feminine, we're not always talking about males and females. A lot of it is about the energy that is given off. And I think on stage there has to be, and in relationships, in business relationships, there has to be a masculine and a feminine energy. And I know couples where the female in that partnership is the masculine energy and the male is the feminine energy, and you've got to have that. And again, with hypnosis, it's exactly the same. Some clients will connect more with a masculine energy, some clients will connect more with a feminine energy, and it's so important to do that. And when people kind of put it into a box and say it's a good thing or a bad thing, it's just a silly thing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Kaz Riley's book there, Woman. Kaz is literally a stone's throw from where I am now. Actually, we often meet for a coffee and chat about stuff. And I keep saying that even though this show is predominantly about stage hypnosis, I do need to do one to get her on to talk about the book as well, because I know she's been through some challenges to get that book on Amazon. So brilliant.
Oh, I love Kaz. She's great. Absolutely great.
Natasha says, can we call it dominant rather than masculine? I think that's a whole different thing, Natasha.
Then we're talking subs and doms and all those things.
Yeah.
Book though, that might be in Kaz's book.
Brilliant. So, what's next for you? I mean, COVID has happened. I know here in the UK, weirdly, Christmas, everything was back to normal, but now my Christmas clients are now kind of like, what's your COVID cancellation policy? We don't want to have all our workforce in one venue at the same time. So Christmas is quieting down a bit now in comparison. How are things looking over there?
For me personally, it's kind of a day-by-day thing.
Yeah.
It's the same because companies and people don't know what's happening in the future because it changes by the day.
Yeah.
So they're afraid, or they don't have the funds. There's just so many things. So it's slower than usual. It is slower than usual, but starting to pick up. We just kind of just take it day by day and see what happens. I've missed it. I know so many of us have absolutely missed it. And the first show I did when I got back was just so wonderful. Just felt so good. It was, am I going to remember what I need to do? Oh yeah, just like riding a bike.
The first show I did after lockdown was appalling. Everything that shouldn't happen with a hypnosis show happened. It was a private ticketed do. It was outside. Nobody knew there was a hypnotist going to be there. Everybody was really drunk or really high. It just was not the environment. But I thought, do you know what? I just need to get this show out the way. And after I've finished it, you go through it and you reevaluate in your head and you're like, wow, there's so much stuff I forgot to do. And luckily, there's no videos of that show anywhere because it was terrible. But it's like you said earlier about you do a bad show and it helps you kind of focus on it. it then meant the next show after that was a lot more polished and back to how it should be.
Did they wear masks? Did they have to wear masks during your show?
It was when in the UK, it's when because it was outside and they didn't need to wear masks. But it's like I had all these social distancing plans and everything. They had completely different ideas. They were just like, whoa, and it's like, wow, this is not. Oh, Natasha Stanley says she has videos.
My first one was actually a lot. Same kind of thing. So it was outside, but everybody still had to wear masks except for me. I didn't have to wear one because I was the entertainer. And they did have everything marked off for 6 feet. But then when it came time for the show, everybody was together. Same thing. But they did keep their masks on. I was a little concerned that would make a difference. It didn't make a difference at all. Didn't make a difference.
I did a show during lockdown, and that was everybody in masks, including me and all the volunteers, nobody touching, everybody far apart. I'd got myself a little stick and everything to do the show, and it was an okay show. It was like a demonstration rather than people actually involved in it. And I said after that I would never do one of them again. And so I held back a little bit. But yeah, I even make the hand sanitizer. It's part of my first routine now. I tell people, right, put your hands out like this, turn it up like this, turn it up like this, and then I just go down and put hand sanitizer in all the hands. And it always gets a bit of a laugh now still. So yeah, it's
the magic potion though, isn't it?
Exactly. That's what hypnotizes them. Fantastic. Marianne, it's been absolutely amazing to have you on. It's been great to talk to you. You've got a wonderful energy. I know Kaz Wiley was saying you were a great person, and Kaz is always right. For those that are watching, if you were to have one golden nugget, one piece of information that you could give your younger self or someone that's out there now, what would that tip be?
To follow your dreams. Absolutely. To no matter how old you are, young or old, if there's something that you love and that you want to do, there should be nothing stopping you from doing it. You can, I think that's what it is. Being my age and still doing what I do, it's pretty amazing sometimes when I have to stop and think about it, when I see other people my age and saying, oh, I'm retired now, I'm not doing anything. So whether you're old or whether you're young, just follow your dreams 100%.
I tell you what, I have actually. See if I can do this. See how prepared I am. I was just about to put up a link to your website and tell people to go check out your socials and everything. And then I just remembered, if it's okay with you, the Gator Hypnosis. Is it okay? The Gator Hypnosis. Is it okay if I show that clip?
Yes.
There we go. Let me just see if I can remember how to do this. It was, I think it was a great little thing that I saw when I was checking out your YouTube channel as well. I'll bring this up, and it looks brilliant.
Oh yes, that's quite a while ago. Yeah.
There we go. Hypnotizing the gator. That is amazing. So whereabouts was that, and how did that come about? Is that like with the chickens? Is it the same thing? If you tip them, the head kind of goes?
Yeah, it was at a local festival that I was performing at, and afterwards I was kind of going around looking at different things, and happened to be there, and that's what happened. But wow. I think, it made for a good clip. It made for a good clip.
Yeah. But it shows the bravery. I've done it with a chicken before, but doing it with a gator just kind of ramps that up just a little bit more than everybody else. So let me just pop this up. I'll put up a link to it'll come in the comment section there. There should be a link to your website. If anyone wants to check you out there as well, they can do. And if they want a link to any of the books, that will bring up a link to the books there as well. But it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Sorry about my cough. And yes, thank you very much for joining us as well. And
well soon. Well soon. Take a deep breath and exhale, but probably taking a deep breath might be a little difficult. Thank you so much, everyone. It was a pleasure.
Good night.
Good night.